wanted to mention, a caution, and I read at length on about doing things with the skew, and my history of it said, do not use the skew in conjunction with a chuck. It's not meant to cut hollow forms inside or outside.
No.
So if you do that, you're going to pay for it in blood. So
I
don't
think
know why.
I think a skew can be used on the outside of a bowl
On the
because
outside.
it technically is a negative rake scraper if you lay it flat on the rest.
Well, like I just showed you.
Like you just showed us doing the scraping of the bead, that works. What we're talking about here is, I don't know if you can see this or not, Archie, but if this is a skew chisel, this is a regular wood chisel. I'm going to use it to turn. It works just fine. But if this thing is sitting on the rest, like flat, and you're using it as a negative rake scraper with the bevel is down, you can scrape a bead, no problem at all. Where the problem comes is when it's sitting on the rest and you turn it up on edge, you want to be cutting at the halfway mark of the tool or below, because this upper part is not on the rest. It's up here and it's going to go like that real quick.
Dig in too.
It's going to dig in big time. So the trick is to keep the cutting action of the wood on the tool on the part of the tool that's on the rest, not the part that's up in the air. That's where all the catches come from, is if that unsupported edge gets wood, it's going to come down in a hurry. And if you're using the long point down, that's less likely to happen because the short part of the bevel is not away from the wood a little further. But using the long point up, you can really have some massive catches. You got to watch that. So I'm going to turn a planing cut with just a regular wood chisel. I'm going to lay it on the rest and just come across this way. Just so you can see, you don't really have to have an angle on it. This will rub the bevel very nicely. Just a regular wood chisel, okay? The bevel is down. I'm rubbing the bevel. I'm on the bottom 1/3 of the tool, just like any other skew. And I'm just running along. I'm getting nice spiral. So that works. So now, here is a skew. It's the same tool, has a bevel on both sides, has a long and a short thing. So when I'm cutting on the short tip, I'd want to make sure that's on the rest and not let the long tip touch wood or it's going to come down in a hurry. It's unsupported.
Now yours looks like it has a curve.
It has a slight curve.
Like Jim's was straight.
That was made famous by Richard Raffin. He does a lot of box lids and that curve suited him. Sometimes I have a slight curve, sometimes I don't.
I have one at home, I hate it.
Yeah, well,
They also make oval skews.
I have
All
all
of
of,
mine are oval. I like them.
I have all of mine. I have a whole bunch with me. I'll show you. I have ovals, I have squares, I have rectangles. So this is a typical old high-speed steel Buck Brothers cheap tool. I don't even know where it came from. But it has square edges on all four edges. This will really create some nicks in your tool rest because these are really sharp edges. So I relieve them with a file or sandpaper and just round them ever so slightly to save the tool rest.
Yeah, I
Because
did
it-
that with the new one I just bought.
Because it will get nicks in it. And it glides along a little easier if the edges are slightly rounded. It doesn't
works
catch.
the other way too, because you have to get a draw file and file your tool rest.
Right.
So otherwise that'll stick.
And there's some nicks in Sam's tool rest. I think he likes it that way, but I'm not sure. But,
Good.
so the next,
It goes out in and up.
so the
In and
next,
up.
the next iteration of the skew is the Sorby, in which case it's somewhat square edged here, but it's nicely radiused on that side. And it's oval in cross section. It's not flat. Okay?
Okay.
So you can get one of these, and these tend to roll a little nicer on the rest.
I bet you would.
I've also found out through trial and error, here's another Sorby. This is a little guy. Same thing. It's an oval skew. Very nice for
SORBE.
turning. Sorry?
SORBE.
SORBY from England, from Sheffield, England. Robert Sorby. And then what I started doing is making my own skews out of round steel rods. I love these things because no matter where you are on the rest, you're supported. You still can catch the long point and have it gouge and roll on you, but this thing just is really nice for support to have around. And for doing tiny little finials and stuff, a little one like this really is nice. Okay?
The angle on that round one's used a lot.
This one is really pointed for getting in tight places, using it flat as a scraper to get in between two beads, way down in a little tiny beads. That's why it's so pointed. This is about a 30 degree. That's probably more than 45. And these I sharpen by holding them on the side of the stone of your grinder. So they're not hollow ground. They're not ground in from the roundness of the wheel. They're held against. You can sharpen these on a belt sander too.
Yeah.
You know, anything flat, or you can hone them by hand, but that's how I sharpen them on the side of the wheel. Those wheels are not made to be pushed on real hard sideways. They can blow up and go all over the shop on you. So use a light touch if you're sharpening on the side of the wheel, okay?
Good glasses.
Good glasses.
You will find over the years that because the skew is so different in its use and construction, you will find turners that will specialize in skew turning and not even pick up a bowl gouge, ever,
Yeah.
and vice versa. You'll find bowl turners that will never pick up a skew. They're two different things entirely. And they both have a learning curve, and, you know, they both have their individual.
I would never, ever use a skew on the inside of a bowl.
No.
But I would use it on the outside of the bowl as a very gentle scraping action to blend in the marks from the bowl gouge.
I would say that'd be fine, except if you go over the side.
Yeah.
And decide to come back up.
You just got to really
you're in
watch.
trouble.
You know, if I was gonna use a skew on the outside of a bowl, I would use it as.
Negative rake scraper.
45,
Yeah,
I'd use a shear scraper.
yeah,
That's the
right.
only way I would use it. As a shear scraper.
But you can take out some minor ridges from bowl gouges with a skew with a negative rake.
Yes.
It will work. So what I'm going to do first is turn a bead with a spindle gouge. Okay, this is about a 45 degree angle, and to turn a bead with this, you start out with the flute straight up, and as you proceed with the bead, you're rolling the tool so that the flute ends up sideways. It starts out straight up and ends up sideways. The handle has to start out pretty much here, and it has to sweep in a curve. As you're rolling the tool, you're also rolling the handle around. That's the action it takes to turn a bead with a gouge. And I'll do one. And it starts off as a simple V in the middle, and you're working both sides. A little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. So let's have a go at this. So I'm going to make a nick right here so you can see it. Can you guys see that? Archie, can you see that little nick? Okay, so I'm going to work on this side and then the other side and just end up in that nick. So I'm starting out straight. I cut that side, I come to the other side, and you stop when you get to the bottom. You don't want to cut uphill on the other side. So why am I showing you this? Because you don't need to master a skew to turn beads. You can turn them with a gouge. You'll very rarely have a catch with this unless you go past the smallest part and start going uphill on the other side. Then you can
You're
have some.
doing basically the same thing.
It's the same thing, and this is just as smooth as a skew will cut.
You're cutting, because you're cutting.
I'm rubbing the bevel the whole time, and if I keep going, that gets deeper and deeper, the crevice in between, and then I move over and do the other side.
That would be, if somebody wants to cut these, that'd be a lot safer.
These are really an easy way, and if they're ground pointed enough, they'll get in there without hitting the uphill side.
It's a good thing.
Basically, that's a transition tool. If you know how to use a skew and you know how to use it well, it's 10 times quicker than what
Yes,
you're doing.
yes, it is. But if you have nothing but problems with a skew and you're on your last of your finial on your project and you're not confident that you won't screw it up, just get a well-sharpened little tiny, spindle gouge made on a round stock, not forged, but a round. And it'll get right in there and do just fine. I'll finish this bead with this. Not so bad. So you can see it will work. Let's go to the skew now. This is the one with 4 square corners, and I'll just try to turn a bead right next to it. So I'm going to make a nick to start with. I'm going to use the short edge of the tool. I have the rest up pretty high, and I'm just going to use that bottom corner to get down in there. Then I come to the other side. There's a bead. Okay. So I can also cut a bead with the long tip down. If I do that, I have to start off with my hand way over here and end up pretty much straight. It's the opposite of this way where I'm simply rolling the tool and it's not really moving any. But either side will cut a bead. Put a nick over here, and I'm going to use the long point now. Switch to the other side. So what is when do the catches occur? When you go past the bottom and you're going in the uphill wood on the other side, or if you're lazy with rotating the tool to keep the bevel rubbing, or if you let the cut creep up to the top part of the tool that's unsupported by the rest. And you can play around with a piece of firewood and try to make a catch and find out when it happens and when it doesn't. I advise you to try that.
Well, I spent some time doing that.
Yeah. So
Make sure you got,
I had to try to make a catch.
make sure you got a catcher's mitt.
So
I can
let's-
guarantee you I can make a catch.
let's try the round one. I've got a small round one and a big. Let's try the big one first here. Make a nick. I'm using the small end. I'm going to use the long point down. Short point down. I really think it's the speed at with which you rotate the tool and move the handle that matters. Rolling beads with a skew.
Yeah, I was looking back at it, I think I found, in my mind, I was being lazy on the bottom. And if you weren't really careful, then you end up running the toe of the skew and
Yep.
the bead next to it.
Yeah, it's
That's what was good.
when you run into the uphill side on the other side, if you keep going, it'll throw you up and out. It'll really take a gouge out.
I'll take some time this week and teach Kate how to do this.
So you do get a silky smooth finish, cutting tapers and beads with these. So, I mean, we could spend a lot of time, but until you try this yourself and spend some time. If you want to make 10 spindles all the same with some beads and coves, it'll come to you. And I just had an order for 40 some spindles. And the first one took me 22 minutes. The last one took me 4.
Yeah.
So in 40 some spindles, that's how much my speed went up and my results got better. It was smoother, less sanding, just more uniform rounded beads. They didn't have any flats on them.
I once did 620 spindles. That was a hell of a summer.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was miserable.
Well, I think the most I did for Mackinac was 150 spindles, and the first day I think I did like 10 between 8 in the morning and 11. And the next morning I did like 15 in that same time frame. And by the end, I was doing 40 in that same 3 hours. And I refused to do it more than about 3 hours because it's boring.
Yes.
And so every morning I'd go out and put in my 3 hours. In about 2 weeks, I had 150 spindles to deliver to Mackinac. And it was $6,000. So, no big deal.
When I was turning, I would sit out in the morning boring, doing blind boring, because it took all that concentration. And you can only do that for so many hours before you lose your concentration and you start making mistakes. So I learned that I would do all my blind boring when I was fresh in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I'd do my finishing or, whatever I had to do away from blind boring. I didn't blind bore more than like 3-4 hours at a time. Because you lose your concentration, and that's when you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get hurt.
Yeah.
Well, that's when you rip a hunk out of the wood.
Yeah, your piece blows
I'm
up.
doing it's an architect designed kitchen in butternut, which is hard
That's
to,
nice wood to turn.
really nice to turn.
Yeah.
But the guys, the builder of the cabinets is providing me with the blanks to turn. It's for an island, and there's a couple of tall spindles holding up one end of the island to the floor. And then there's a bunch of small turnings for feet on the island, and there's a couple layers of cabinets in there that have these turnings. And, and it's all round beads. The whole profile is beads all the way to the floor. And he said, well, how many blanks do you need? And I said, well, just 2 long ones and 8 of the other ones, So sometimes there's not room for mistakes. And on those rounds, I may just use a spindle gouge because, if I mess one up, I only have 2 blanks, a butternut, and they're 4-inch diameter.
But
They're
it's like turning yellow birch. It's nice.
real nice. But thanks, Walt. I know we could spend more time on this, but I think you just watch that unsupported edge, the one that's up there in the air, because that's the one that comes down in a hurry and grabs on you.